cities, and paths, and swiftly attain the state of Vajradhara. Beautiful. I actually love it because it really makes you think about what you're doing. I think it's beautiful. So after that nice inspiring morning with the medicine Buddha, we're going to do developing awareness, the theme of Jigme Lingpa's aspirational prayer, and this is part 4. So please, if you haven't seen the other parts, you're welcome. You just go onto the YouTube of our center and you can get the previous ones. Yeah, Mim, what's wrong?
Sorry, Mel, before you start, can Bernice send us, my English is different for that lineage prayer. Can I get a copy of it?
Sure,
Burns?
sure.
Can you email one to me?
Definitely. Anybody
Thank
else?
you. Thank
Whoever else wants it easy, just let me know.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
and
want
while we're talking about that, you know, if anybody wants the Chenrezi or the Medicine Buddha or any of those, I've got them on WhatsApp. So I can send them to you, and Bern can always give you the words. So if you like to do these things at home, you're welcome to ask me and I'll send you whatever you want. We've got them available now, and I hope that's really a good thing that we've got. So this theme of Jigme Lingpa's aspirational prayer, the more I go on, the more I read it, and we're going to read it through today, the more I actually understand how Jigme Lingpa's mind worked, because he decided that whatever happens, the Longchen Ninchik lineage of the Nyingma lineage of Dzogchen must be passed on. And what happened was, which I'll explain to you, is he had them in mind termas. So they just arose in him, which is such an amazing thing when you look at these prayers. It's not like us who write something and then we cross it out and we change it and then we're not happy with this and we're not happy with it. It comes out perfectly and spontaneously. And this is one of the things we can really look forward to when we are able to get to that perfect awareness that we have. It's really important that we actually do have that awareness. So I want to start with a story, which is quite a scary one in a way, but I think it wakes everybody up. And the story goes like that. The human condition. Stop the train. A man being late for a trip arrived at a railroad station and jumped onto the first available train. He dozed off for a while and then upon waking up saw the train rumbling along at full speed toward an unknown destination. He began querying everybody, complaining aloud, and finally crying and shouting. He demanded that the train stop to let him off. The more excited he became, the more the other passengers, eerily silent and downcast, seemed puzzled by his behavior. Finally, a kind old man told him, "Don't you know, this train only has one destination, the ocean depths from which no one ever returns. Once we are born, our final destination is death, the deep ocean. Why fret and fuss? All we can do is use our time on earth to develop the Bodhi mind, seeking enlightenment for ourselves and others." Now, it's quite a scary story. And those of you who could switch on your cameras, please do, because I love to see your faces as well, if you can. But it's a very important story, that, because if we remember that story, then we really need to spend our time looking at awareness and trying to understand what awareness really is. And I want to go to the beginning. Before we start, I want to go to the beginning of the editor's note of this beautiful thing, the Citadel of Awareness. And she says here, in the winter of 220, much of the world was locked down as people everywhere grappled with the effects of a pandemic, then in its 6th month with no clear end in sight. And I was thinking about it and thinking how it changed everything. I mean, that pandemic changed everything, and no one talks about it anymore, and nobody says anything, and nobody looks at what we actually gained from it. But it was there to actually get us to see that there's only one destination, and we have to go to that destination, which is enlightenment. There's no other place to go. And that's what we're really busy doing in this life. And she said, at the same time that many outer activities ceased, online events blossomed. In the midst of this, Anam Thubten began work on his commentary on Jigme Lingpa's Dzogchen Aspirational Prayer. Taking advantage of technology, he and I used online video conferencing work to work together, resulting in this book, which surprisingly was completed more quickly than any of the other previous books that we've produced. Our virtual work together became a joyous venture. To ease video fatigue, we took frequent chai breaks, had time for laughter, and made sure to get up and stretch regularly. Yet despite this modern modality, there was something very ancient about the process, as Laura Duggan writes, that's her name. The Tibetan Buddhist tradition that Anam Thubten comes from has historically been an oral tradition. The Buddhist sutras often begin with, "Thus I have heard." Such an important sentence, that "thus I have heard," because it's directly from the lineage. When you hear something, it's directly from the lineage, and that's why it starts, "Thus I have heard." And then these beings train themselves really to be able to remember things and have a great memory about it. And she said, the ancient masters revealed sacred scriptures by speaking them aloud to disciples who transcribed them by hand. This book was created in a similar way as an oral transmission. And Anam Thubten would read a verse from the prayer, and then with seemingly little effort began a commentary on it while I typed what he said. He explained Dzogchen terms, complex philosophy, and practical applications without relying on notes or preparing the words in advance. Occasionally, he would pause as he researched a quote or read text by Dzogchen masters from the past. Much as a pen does not know what it's writing, my fingers really didn't know what I was typing. Yet when we both returned to read, the manuscript was astoundingly complete, needing very little revision. Now, I want you to understand this, because a lot of you really struggle with a lot of things in your life. You struggle because you want them to be a particular way. You want them to be a particular form. And why do you want them to be a particular form? Because then you delude yourself that you're safe. If it all works out like that, then I'm safe. I don't need to do anything else. Now, what this teaches us, and listening to Dzongkar Gyaltse's Reign of Wisdom, I really realize more and more and more, we have got to be able to touch that Buddha nature. And you can't touch the Buddha nature unless you give yourself the time and space. You might just touch it for a second. And that's what Jigme Lingpa is saying. You might have done a lot of pre-work, and then you may come to actually understand it for 1 minute. But it's something that comes spontaneously, effortlessly, and it is not exclusive for these masters. You could get it just like that in a moment, just in a second, where your guard was down and where you really, really felt that you really felt that you just let everything go, let everything be. That's such an interesting process. And I want to explain a few of my own processes that actually come from this, because I think that it's that one of the mistakes we all make is to think that, you know, the Buddha nature is something that these masters have got, not us. We know it's there, but we don't believe that it's possible to attain it. But if you give up all the controlling and take some time. And that's what Jigme Lingpa is actually trying. He says, withdraw the meditation sheath. So don't worry about how many hours you spend in practice and meditation. Rather, just be tuned in all the time, and then you'll see how amazing it is. Now, it's very important that you understand that, Bern. Please put the prayer on now, and then we're going to all read it slowly in a beautiful state of meditation. And then we'll go back and quickly review what we've done so far, and then we'll go on with it. Okay, so you got it, the prayer. Yeah, good. So let's read it together. Homage to glorious Samanta Bhadra. Read it to yourself. The true nature of the primordial state is intrinsically free from all conceptual elaborations. It's not existent because Buddha hasn't seen it. It's not non-existent because it's the ground of all samsara and nirvana. It's not contradictory, but it's beyond words. May I realize the true nature of the ground of Dzogchen. 2, because the essence is empty, it is free from eternalism. Its nature is luminous, therefore it is free from nihilism. Now remember, when I was teaching you this, eternalism is when we all want this everlasting life in the hands of whoever, okay? This eternalism must be like this no, it's not supposed to be it's supposed to be eternalism. And it's exactly, if you've got X, it's the wrong word. It's eternalism, means it doesn't go forever and ever. Why? Because the ground is always creating. Therefore, it can't be eternal. It's got to be changing all the time, even though it's permanent, you could say. It's always there, but it's changing. And because there is the luminous nature that's completely going out, it's free from nihilism. In other words, it's not nothingness, because a lot of people who are obsessed about meditating, about meditating in calm abiding, and they're obsessed about coming to that state. And that's a very good thing, to come to that shamatha state where you are a little free of thoughts, not free, but you're much better and you're resting. But that's not the end. Then it would be nihilism if we went into a state of emptiness. So even though it's divided into 3, they are not separate in actuality. May I realize the true nature of the ground of Dzogchen. 3, inconceivable and free from all conceptual exaggeration. The reference point to existent or non-existent collapses. Even Buddha's tongue struggles to describe this truth. It has no beginning, no end, and no middle. It is a space of deep, profound clarity. May I realize the true nature of the ground of Dzogchen. In the unborn original purity, which is pristine in itself, the radiance of the spontaneously present, unconditioned shines. Unconditioned means it's not due to causes and condition. It's just unconditioned, yet not held as something other. The great union of awareness and emptiness. The understanding of primordial ground culminates through this realization. May there be no pitfalls concerning the vital points of the path. From the beginning, it is already pure, and the term view does not even exist. By awareness realizing its own nature, this is the sentence I was saying, it pulls itself from the sheath of meditation. Because there are no reference point, it is freed from the chains of conduct. Does that mean you do whatever you want? No, automatically when you're in that state of awareness, you do not harm people. But you don't have to think, I mustn't do this. You just you don't harm people in your true nature. In the womb of the unconditioned nature, naked and free from conceptual elaborations, may there be no pitfalls concerning the vital points of the path, not falling into the partiality of good and bad thoughts, and not wandering in an undifferentiated state. Within the limitless vast expanse, whatever arises is liberated by itself, by understanding the nature of reality, in which all accepting and rejecting are intrinsically exhausted. May there be no pitfalls concerning the vital points of the path. And number 7, within the space-like original primordial ground, just like clouds dissolve into the sky, the display of ground awareness dissolves. The outwardly illuminating mind reverses and goes inward within the state of the youthful vase body endowed with the 6 qualities. May I reach the citadel of the King of all fruition. So while we're here, I'll just say a couple of things on I'll do it when we finish. The youthful vase body, which we were talking about last time, but I'll just say something in a few minutes. To Samantabhadra, the primordial self-aware awareness, Samantabhadra being your true nature, all the notions of attainment, I must do this, dissolve into space. The nature of Ati Yoga goes beyond effort and mind. In the expansive womb of Samantabhadra, the union of space and awareness, may I reach the citadel of the King of all fruitions. And the last verse, the meaning of the great middle way, that's Madhyamika, because we've got three points, Madhyamika, Mahamudra, and Dzogchen. They all land up exactly the same, but different people take different journeys to get it. So the meaning of the great middle way, non-abiding, the nature of Mahamudra, all-encompassing and spontaneously pervasive, the vital point of Dzogchen, liberation from extremes and expansive. The qualities of the bhumis and path are complete within the ground, within the spontaneously present state. May I reach the citadel of the King of all fruitions. And the colophon, which is the ending. The quintessence of enlightened mind, the profound seal of the great expanse, concludes with this profound aspiration prayer. The guardian of the teachers, the sage Rahula, appeared in the form of a monk, and at his request it was composed, in order to benefit others by spreading its profound meaning and to complete the auspicious interdependence and aspirations to the one who was blessed by Namki Ningpo, the hidden Vidyadhara, the crazy one. He was a crazy guy. There are lovely stories written about him from Longpo. I opened this profound seal and entrusted him with it. May its benefit for others become as vast as space. Okay, when you read that prayer, and you should do it at home, you should take your notes of all the things, because Anam Thubten has actually given such beautiful teaching on every single verse. We've done 3 verses, and I'll go back at 1 or 2 things. But I can see by his teaching how long he's contemplated these things. And I'm contemplating them myself. I really am. And it's such an interesting time for me now, because I'm about to maybe go into another era of my life. I feel that. I know I have to get out of my house. I have to get out of my beautiful shrine room. I have to move on now. It's really important for me. And so I really have to pack up all my stuff that I've done for the last 50-something years. If you see what's in my study, you could die. I mean, to see the lectures, the pamphlets, the prayers, you've just got no idea what there is. And now I have to condense it. And so I was saying to myself, what do you want from the next era of my life? And I hope that this will be really helpful to all of you, because when I woke up in the morning, I thought, how can I explain? And I phoned Bern and I said to her, listen, I've got all CVs that I've got to use for various things, but I need a present CV of what I'm doing now and where I am now, because that isn't included in all the material. And what I realized was that Tilopa, who was really a very high master, he taught Naropa, then Naropa taught Marpa, then Marpa taught Milarepa, and Milarepa taught Gambopa and Rechumpa, and then the lineage spread from Gambopa, it spread to all of us and to everything that had to be. And so when I looked at this, and I looked at Tilopa was really a shock to the being, because he was somebody who used his Buddha nature. And what happened with Tilopa was he was a sesame oil was his profession. He had to extract the sesame oil. So he sat with a little bowl like that with the sesame seeds, grinding these sesame seeds, grinding them. Can you imagine how many hours? I mean, today they would put it in a machine, the machine would extract it. But he sat by hand grinding all these sesame seeds until the oil came out. And when I woke up in the morning, I thought, that's it. We've got to extract the oil out of the sesame seeds of our life, because he attained enlightenment while he was grinding these sesame seeds. He actually managed to attain enlightenment. And so it's a very, very, very interesting thing, because I thought, I've got to extract the essence out of everything, not just what I take with me, but my own essence. I thought, where have I come from? What is all this about? I mean, I did hundreds and hundreds of talks everywhere. I mean, it's fascinating, because when I read the newspaper articles and the magazines and everything, I wonder who that person was. I'm sure it wasn't me, okay? And maybe because less and less there's a me. So you laugh about it, you know, and should I keep it or shouldn't I? And I thought, well, my children are entitled to have all of this that I've got in this big box of stuff that I've kept, that Bern, before she even went to Australia, was busy cleaning and putting into order and everything. I wish she could do it now. But anyway, what's important is, what do I want with my life? And I thought, my time for ongoing things, for doing things on a regular basis, is ending soon. And I need to be able to just give the essence to people. And when people need stuff from me, they can ask me, and I need to give the essence of them, rather than keeping people over long periods of time and putting it in maybe my time. I'm just saying, this is what I've surmised. You know, that thing, man proposes, God disposes kind of thing. It may not work like that, but that is what it seemed to me. And I wanted to say to all of you, I mean, some of you are much younger, but we need to start extracting the oil out of the sesame seeds of our life. We need to start getting much more to the essence. And this is what Dzongkpa Rinpoche is talking about. He says we need to get used to using our Buddha natures in our daily lives, using our awareness. We're so hesitant. We can't let it happen, because we're so untrusting of it. You know, we're untrusting of it. And the thing is this, that it's a very, very interesting thing, because when we look at this carefully, this is what we're doing now. We're extracting the essence of our lives, even if you're younger. And whatever you do, you can do it at a much earlier age than I'm doing it now. You can do it when you're in your 50s, when you're in your 60s. You can start doing all these things because you need to start saying, where is the train of my life going? What is the destination? And am I ready for that? And this teaching, everything Jigme Lingpa gives is a teaching like that. And when Corin sent me this magnificent book, and Corin, it's arriving any day now so that I don't have to read it on computer, on the glorious copper-colored mountain, it also comes from Jigme Lingpa. So clearly my connection is with that lineage master who's given me so much. And my retreat that I had for 6 weeks, just using everything that he taught, he wants us to get to understand this Buddha nature. And I don't mind how slowly we go, because I really, really think it's most important that we get there. Now, when you look at some of the other things in this book, which is really, really important, which I marked off, okay. Sorry, it's not in there. I've just got to find where everything is. I thought it was in the book. It's in my notes. I'm going to the end of my notes today because I want to go where we came in the colophon. So it says in the colophon, this prayer is considered a terma, a mind treasure. It's called gom ter in Tibetan, a mind treasure, which means it just comes into the mind of that being, and then they give it so that we can get enlightened, which is the most amazing, amazing thing. I think that many of these people, I think, Ego, that Jesus had that very much. I think he had many mind treasures which he came forth. But unfortunately, with Christianity, many times I think they took those mind treasures and changed it into what they actually wanted to keep the people in control, which is a great, great pity, because with these masters, nobody changes anything. Even in the translations, they throw it from person to person so that they're not putting their own thing. And many times I read in some of these things, it's very difficult to understand everything, but we do not want to change the mind, the words of that master. So if you sit for long enough, you can actually get it. And he says, in general, the entire Longchen Nyingtik tradition is regarded as a gong te, which is a mind treasure, not the usual mind, but the enlightened or Dharmakaya mind. A mind treasure is considered by some to be the highest level of terma because it comes from the most sublime source. And I love it when Dzongkhazi Enzi Rinpoche says, no erasers. When they sing these songs, there are no erasers. They don't go back and change anything. It just comes in the most beautiful form. And it can come from a lot of you, trust me. And the story of how the prayer came into being, Jigme Lingpa was said to have a vision of Rahula, who was one of the Dharma guardians of the Nyingma tradition. And he appeared as a monk and requested Jigme Lingpa to reveal this prayer. And out of request, he revealed this from the highest source. And he entrusted this to his disciple, the madman, the hidden yogi, who was one of the 25 disciples of Padmasambhava. Then he makes the prayer that not only this Doha, but the Dzogchen teachings in general will have longevity in this world and continue reaching the hearts of many individuals and helping them discover the highest liberation. Now that's you. You wouldn't be sitting here wasting a very hectic Monday morning if you didn't believe that that was true. And I loved it. I got a message from Lucian the other day, and she said, my Monday mornings are the highlight of my week. That made me so happy, you know. It really touched a core in me. I felt that's such a beautiful thing to say, you know, because I think that I think that it's so lovely if you don't think of it as, oh, a commitment I've got, but somewhere where I can just leave everything behind and come to that wonderful thing. I'll give you a chance to talk in a minute. And he says, this aspiration prayer thoroughly covers the entire system of Dzogchen. It allows a full comprehension of Dzogchen, including its philosophy. And he says, it has a scholarly and experiential style. It has a flavor that can lead to experience Rigpa, that's your absolute intrinsic awareness in the realm of now. And the point is to live the prayer and its aspirations. All of you, don't ever think I can't live it. You can dedicate a whole lifetime to Dzogchen practice. Doesn't have to be a linear path. And the goal of practice can manifest at any moment. Now, it's a very interesting thing because what this Anam Thubten, who was doing it, took was he went and he saw this movie called The Matrix. Did any of you see the movie The Matrix? Did you, Nat? Okay. I never actually saw it, but it's a very, very interesting. It's a very interesting movie. I don't know if you want to comment on it, but it's a very interesting movie. And he says, according to Dzogchen, liberation or nirvana is really a state of your own mind that can take place at any given moment in the realm of Rigpa. The impact is not mental or conceptual, but can immediately pull us away from what I call the matrix of duality. The matrix of duality, that our whole lives, we think everything's there and I'm here and it's separate from me. Now he says this expression was inspired by the movie The Matrix. If you ever watched the first movie in the series, and I think it's quite scary because I think it's what's happening now, you know that the Matrix is basically a world where everyone was enslaved by artificial intelligence. And and people were living an illusion, thinking they were having a life while they were really being used to feed that art. They were being used to feed that artificial intelligence. There was an underground movement where people woke up, knew that everybody was enslaved, and then resisted it. So they must have fought it. I found the Matrix is a powerful analogy to describe the world of illusion, the duality that we are trapped into. In the matrix of duality, there is me, who is separate from the totality. This is my life, and other people I either like or dislike, and I have all these goals for achievement, for wanting love, approval, comfort, so on. There is me who's competing with other people to get ahead of the game. There is fear with all that, not achieving what I want, fear of rejection and failure, and all kinds of ideas of right and wrong to get attached to. At the same, all the time, this sense of me or I is always striving towards something, holding this life together and always fighting, even unconsciously, and to control reality, to mold it into my preference. It's always happening. Even if we do spiritual practices, we are operating in that matrix. Nat, if you saw it, what was your feeling? Because I actually get this horrible feeling about the artificial intelligence now, because you can actually see that people will put all their wrong delusions into artificial intelligence. And what if we start depending on it? What if we start listening to it? What if we believe that's the truth? Then what? Do you want to comment, Nat? It would be interesting to see, because I mean.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a very seminal movie. It really, when it came out, I remember, I don't even know if I was a Buddhist at that time, but it definitely does resonate with as an analogy, yes. So I think he has this moment where the main protagonist has this moment where he lives this office job life. Every day is the same, and he thinks everything's kind of chugging along fairly nicely. And then he he wakes up somewhere along the line. He has this moment of realization, and then he meets this guy who offers him 2 pills, a red pill or a blue pill, I can't remember now. And he said, you can take 1 pill and just carry on living your life, or you can take this other pill and really wake up, because you've had this glimpse, but you can really go another path. So he chooses the one to see around him what's going on, and it's horrifying. It is like a horror movie, but he goes on this, I don't know, journey to try and change things for the better for himself and everyone else. It's almost like kind of like bodhicitta. He has this bodhicitta motivation that he's like, I'm willing to do anything, even if I'm going to die, to help others also see that this is not really okay. And then all these, I just remember Mr. Anderson was this kind of clone that came after him. I always think Mr. Anderson. He was very boring, another office-clad guy, but he was a demon. And so you could interpret that as something inside his mind, or something that was real, like a real enemy, but he had to overcome these things. And he even though it was hopeless, it was like a completely hopeless situation, he had other people around him who also became involved. And so it was a very exciting movie on one level, an action movie with Keanu Reeves. He does all these action movies, but on the other level, it was quite philosophical. And
listen, it's a very philosophical. And what is this AI going to be doing in our world? Because because think about it, the artificial intelligence is designed by the people who are living lives like, the wrong delusional life of the duality. So clearly the AI is going to be like that. And, will there be enough people who are enlightened to resist that thing? And I often think about it. I think about, this artificial intelligence taking over everything. And I mean, if it's programmed by people who are deluded, then, and they don't have the emotion, so they can just go and do everything. But isn't the point, everybody, that what I said to you, I think I said it to this group, was what Buddha Shakyamuni said, which was such a beautiful, it was such an amazing thing. And I keep on saying that, I don't know where it is, but anyway, Buddha Shakyamuni, when Shariputra said to Buddha Shakyamuni, okay, why is it that the world you're living in, Buddha Shakyamuni, is so impure and full of impurities? Here you are, this enlightened being. And the Buddha answered, which is one of the most important things. The Buddha answered, he said, even a Elon Musk is warning people, yeah, it's true. And he reminds me of artificial intelligence, But what he said to Shariputra, do not blame the thus gone one. Thus gone one means the Buddha. Do not blame the Buddha for your impure seeing. This is a pure world, but you can't see it. If the Buddha was in it, it had to be a pure world. So I was thinking to myself, well, what about these wars? How can they be pure? But I know that, that what we're seeing is not the truth. That's just what we have projected in our viewpoint and as a collective people. So if we all start having a different viewpoint, we've got a much better opportunity of changing and going to an age of enlightenment, which is really important. So I think this is really important. And he says, through the Dzogchen, we can pull back and realize the truth, the Dharmakaya, and liberate from the matrix. But he says, that's why we need some retreat to practice the art of non-doing and let go of the ninefold activities. The body, speech, and mind activities, the outer ones, the inner ones, and the secret ones. We pull the consciousness from duality and rest in the primordial ground of things. And he gives the techniques of how to do that. Like, for instance, the technique which Patrul Rinpoche always talks about of te, when you go te, which is like a shock to the thinking mind. Now, te is actually together, if you take what it's derived from, it's actually the emptiness and the wisdom. And when you go te, it shocks you out of your duality, out of the rubbish, out of all your thinking and everything. So he says that's a really good thing to use when you're doing your practice and your mind is all over the place. Go Phat, P-H-A-T, and that shocks you out of it. He says the other thing is gazing into space, resting in the nature of mind is another thing. And he says in the Dzogchen, the more kleshas, the more negative emotions, the more dharmakaya. Because your negative emotions are the dharmakaya. You're just seeing them as negative emotions. So you can change your perception. And the third thing he says is reciting a Dzogchen text, reminding you to drop into Rigpa. So like this prayer that I've given you, when you're really having a hard time, just put it up and recite it. And then take your notes of what I'm teaching you from Anam Thubten and see, so that you see a true perspective. When horrible things are happening, we can't see it in any way. He says, experience the sun of happiness shining from within. We've got that. So anybody, before we go back now to the text and do a lot of the teaching, I mean, there's so much to teach you. And if you don't mind, I'm going to continue with this for a couple more sessions, because I think there's too much to learn. You know, I think there's too much to grow. And he's such a, Anam Thubten is such a modern, he's a modern master who really gives us things so that we can actually understand what it's all about. Does anyone want to say anything, ask anything, comment anything? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think then, apropos everything you're saying, we
Yes.
have a wonderful opportunity in our country, in South Africa, with all our obstacles, all our negativity, according to what you're saying, we've got the best opportunities to see the truth and the Dharmakaya.
Yeah, it's true. We have got the best opportunities. And
So
that's
maybe we should think that way, rather.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's interesting because my children all say, you can't stay, you've got to come and live with us, you've got to come and live with us, you've got to come and live with us. And we're thinking about it now, we're thinking about that. But for me, as long as I'm in the same time dimension, I can continue doing whatever I need to do. But I feel to myself, I feel this, that when you are able to extract the essence from your life, when you see what it's about, then there are no compromises. Wherever you are just in the place you need to be for whatever you need. And we all in South Africa, not all of us, but we in South Africa, because it is the place we need to be. And I've put hours and hours and hours and hours of prayers into the country, and I put hours and hours and hours of prayer, and I put into feeding with my chirp practice all the demons in the government and things like that. I do tons and tons and tons of practice. And I think wherever I was, I would still do tons and tons and tons of practice, because I feel this is the country where I've lived my whole life. And it is very important. And I agree with you, ma'am. And when we look at what's the end deal, what I was telling you last time is the way to explain the manifestation from the ground is called the youthful vase body. Now, a lot of you, like Corin, would be reading about the youthful vase body a lot. Okay, and what is the youthful vase body? I'm going back to it, I told you last time. The body refers to the formless dimension of the ground Rigpa, where it resides as the inner luminosity, the subtle primordial wisdom that is inside us, okay? And why it's called youthful is When we attain the youthful vase body, there's no more death. It's a deathless body. We don't have to come back into any incarnation unless of our own choice. And a vase, why it's called the youthful vase body is, the vase is a metaphor for that which veils the luminosity. Now, I want you to think about this. If this was the youthful vase body, inside this body is your natural inner luminosity. Oh, Gail, man, stop all your fixing, okay? Inside here is that luminosity inside you, the potential for the creation from the ground. It's inside of you. And then how does it come out? Well, in the one text, which I explained to you, it says that when the life force enters the vase breaks, and then the luminosity comes out in this beautiful five-colored light, all the wisdoms, and the whole world is made from that luminosity. So it's inside. And then something, they say the vase breaks. In another chapter, they say the life force comes in. So the vase breaks. And then at that moment, it shines vividly out. This beautiful luminosity shines vividly everywhere, forming the world as we know it. Now, at that point, the important thing is that I was telling you last time, at that very point, when you could say the vase breaks or the life force enters, at that very moment, there are two pathways. One is the pathway of awareness, like in the Matrix, that you choose to take the yellow pill or whatever it is to go to awareness. And one is the path of unawareness, ignorance, which I was talking about last time, the path of ignorance. Now, how do we get to choose between a path of awareness and unawareness? The awareness comes from one factor. That's all. That when the light shines, we do not see it as separate from us. We know that as it shines out, it's the same as the ground. It's just the manifestation of the ground, but it's the same. The minute you say, oh, there's a tree, there's another person, there's a cupboard, there's a this, there's a that, and I'm here and that's there. The minute you say that, you've gone on the path of unawareness. The minute you start deluding yourself, the minute you don't know that the whole world is just a manifestation from the ground of your mind. Yes, Bets, you get that. Does anybody not have a clue what I've been saying last time and this time? It's really important. Tell me, I'll explain it again and again and again. Mans, are you okay?
Yeah, hi, Mel.
Hi, Cuckoo. Yeah.
Well, it's basically, you call it maybe the divine matrix. It's just everyone's linked. We're all from the same source, the same energy.
Right.
Whatever you call it, the same vibration.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's all one. So, okay, a tree may have a different density, but we're all connected. It's all one.
Completely.
So
But when even
it's that simple.
When you take it deeper, you see how people have resolved this in religions. How they've resolved it in religions is they've said, and God created all the forms that there are on this earth. Now, as soon as you say that, it's not that Buddhism doesn't believe in God, if you want to call it that. It's just that the minute it's dualistic, there's this God and he creates everything, then you're going into a path of unawareness. It doesn't mean you're going to do terrible things in your life, But then you don't understand that the ground within you, the God is in you, and the ground manifests, and all creation comes, and it's just a manifestation of the ground, and then it will go back into the ground, and it will manifest, and it will go back into the ground. So when we hang on to a terrible situation as though it were external to us, we are on the path of unawareness. Doesn't mean you don't suffer. If you lose something, you're going to be very heart sore. But you know that it's going to change. You know that it's a manifestation from the ground that needs to happen, and it will change in a certain amount of time. That's the difference. So the heartache is something we don't see as tangible. It's very important. Yeah, Karen, come with your wisdom.
Yeah, I was going through, when there are not very many notes on the Yeshe Lama, very
wonderful.
few. But what hit me was the word revert. They use a lot about the matrix.
Okay.
And it was like Samantabhadra,
Yes.
reverts ignorance into presence.
Just say
That
that
was
again.
my note, which means that everything was
Yes.
Samantabhadra, reverts ignorance into presence. So that says it all. In other words, everything was perfect, unignorant, and it became ignorant.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yes, so yes, and he used the vast body to revert into the present.
Amazing.
And that's when all the kayas are in alignment. Okay, that's all I wanted to mention was the word revert.
I love it. And that's exactly it, because it's our choice now. And if you don't understand it, ask. I don't know how many times I explain. I just want you to see that what Anam Thubten is saying all the time is there are these two journeys of awareness or unawareness. But unawareness has got three aspects. I told you last time, and I'll just go through them very, very quickly. The first unawareness is when you're in a deep sleep. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. You're just schluffing. Okay. It's called absolute ignorance. And remember exactly what Karen's saying there. Revert. The first wheel, the first point on the wheel of life is called ignorance. I didn't know. You can plead on behalf of ignorance. You see in court cases, people go, I didn't know what I was doing. And if they can prove that, then it's not such a bad sentence they get. Okay. So the first type of unawareness is called total causal unawareness. You just don't know. You're in a deep sleep. Now, lots of people are in a deep sleep. Sometimes when I listen to people, I'm thinking, geez, you're sleeping. Where have you been all this time? Haven't you woken up? Can't you see what you're doing? And I have these conversations with Putin all the time. And I go, Mr. Putin, okay, do you not realize that you're going to spend not eons of time in hell realms that are external? You're going to spend eons of time in hell realms that are internal, that you can't get out of. You're going to have to take that, and you're going to have to spend eons of time in there until you wake up to awareness. Why don't you just wake up to awareness now? Get over yourself, my boy. Your ego is so big. You want to take all these people and put them under your ego. Why should they? Why should they go under your ego? You know great shakes to be under. If you told me to put myself under Lama Yeshe Rinpoche, I'd be happy to, but not you, okay? And the point of the matter is, it's called the sleep of ignorance. In his opinion, he is bringing back the Soviet Union. And that's his mission in life. He doesn't care if he kills people and disposes of thousands of people who are having a chance to get on with their lives. He doesn't care. He sees it like that. That is the deepest sleep of unawareness. Okay. The second unawareness is called inborn unawareness. So that inborn unawareness is when you've got that luminosity inside and you don't know that when it comes out, you are unaware that it's part of the ground. And that's called co-emergent unawareness, which means you didn't recognize that it was part of your own luminosity. Do you understand? You didn't recognize that. You thought it was something beyond your control. And that's the second type of unawareness. And the third type of unawareness is called the unawareness of labeling. Right? I told you about it last time. You don't recognize it as your own display, but you begin to label everything and misperceive that everything outside of myself comes from me. It's a trap that we get into. Okay, and then we make it all. You know, I mean, I was saying to you about Putin's mind. In his mind, the Soviet Union is the most wonderful thing. He can't see that it was created and then it went back into the ground, and it's not the right time now for it to come out again. He can't because of his big ego, because of what he believes. So the labeling is the third kind. And if you don't understand delusion, you will not be able to become aware, everybody. We're going to do a meditation. Any questions or any comments that you want to make, with pleasure. I don't care how basic they are. You're welcome to make these comments or questions or anything. Molly, what do you have anything you want to say? Linda. Any of you? Very interesting. It is very interesting, because once you understand it, then you can change your whole perception of the world. And that's what happens to you. Yes, Mimi, please.
I understand what you're saying. I just don't know how, when we see a tree, we can't, I know that everything's one and it's all part of us, but how do we stop that? Everything we see, we do seem to label. This is a tree. Or even if we just see it and we don't label it, we do see it all like that.
Why not say, no, you need the labeling. The Buddha said we need the relative truth. You need some of the labeling. Otherwise, how are you going to negotiate this world? But why not then say, this is a beautiful tree, okay? And it was, this tree was created with my mind. You think about it. So you know that it came. Everything is a creation of your own mind. It's a projection. So whatever we see is a projection coming from our mind. So when we see negativity, the whole country and the whole world are projecting this terrible negativity, you know. I mean, how many people wake up when they see that the temperature is 45 degrees or nearly 50 degrees, and they're like, going underwater to try and cool themselves. But I wonder how many really say, you know what, I've got to really seriously look at Mother Earth, who's giving us a chance to incarnate on her and try and help with whatever needs to be done. We don't. We just say it's so hot, it's sweltering. These experts must find out. One of the prayers I do every single day, I do so many prayers. I'm sure the universe is so sick and tired of all my prayers. But one of the prayers I do every day is, every morning when I wake up, may all those that know the ecology of this planet, may they teach the ignoramuses like me. That's one of the prayers that I ask for every single day. Okay. There's so many people that know, and I see them on television. They know, they feel it instinctively. But some of them are funny, because I listened to a woman yesterday on television. She was clearly a professor of whatever she did, ecology and all of that, you know, and she was so pessimistic. Now, pessimism is not a good creation. It's much better to put enthusiasm in and teach people, you know what? You could do this rather than this. You could do this rather than this. To me, enthusiasm is the most important thing to change this planet into a golden age again. Let's do a meditation before I jabber on and on and on, and then we don't manage to get a meditation. Me. It just goes on like an ongoing waterfall. So much, I feel so deeply about this all. I really, really do. I can go on and on and on teaching. I haven't even gone to another verse this morning. So let's take Longchenpa's advice, if I can find it, that is, on how to be awakened to Rigpa, your awareness. So breathe in and breathe out and come to this very moment. When you come to this moment where the past is past and the future hasn't been made, do not hang on to the moment, because the minute you hang on to the moment, you are now trying to extend this moment, and it's already in the past. 1 second later, it's in the past. So don't hang on to anything. Just be there, open, completely open. And Longchenpa gives the following advice on how to be awakened to Rigpa. Do not manipulate. Do not manipulate your mind. So he says it twice. Do not manipulate. Do not manipulate your mind. That means when you manipulate your mind, that you are trying to deal with things, putting an effort, touching them, holding on. Do not manipulate your mind. Second sentence. Do not grasp. Do not grasp at your mind. I'm always led to think of Dajjam Rinpoche's beautiful words when he says, when he was forming the Tantra of conscious awareness, he says, if you look at pristine awareness and the mind, he's talking about the human mind, he said, do not confuse them. The mind comes out of pristine awareness, not the other way around. So pristine awareness was always there, and the mind is projected out of that. Do not grasp at your mind or anything. The more we manipulate our mind, the more pollution will occur. Contrived mind, that's our everyday human mind, will obscure the essential meaning. So leave it out. Do not manipulate, do not grasp. The more we do, the more pollution. And when we have a mind that we've decided on, it will obscure the essential meaning. He is saying, says Anam Thubten, since Rigpa is already the nature of mind, it doesn't have to be created. We don't have to create it. Don't try and get there. Don't try and get there. Leave your mind alone. whatever experiences arrive, good or bad, don't grasp at them. Let go of your preconceived notions. Just open yourself up and say, I know nothing. Let go of all your preconceived notions and motives of what you are supposed to be experiencing. Let go of, I'm meditating. This is what I'm supposed to be experiencing. You're supposed to be experiencing no thing, nothing. When there's mud in the water, the more you stir, the muddier. Leave it alone, and it will settle clean and pristine. Liberation can happen even in the most difficult external circumstances. Even knowing the nature of mind does not mean we won't feel pain, but the reaction ego puts on pain would not be there. It's a different attitude. It's allowing everything to be. And there's not the slightest separation between what is to be known and the knower. Awareness is the nature of mind, the Buddha within, the Dharmakaya mind. Nothing is held as something other. There's a great union of awareness and emptiness. The emptiness is the ground within, and the awareness, the Zinang, is created out of the emptiness. Let it create on its own, and let it dissolve on its own. Do not interfere. Just rest in uncontrived, natural state of your own mind, and the most profound awakening will come to you on this path. So we've got a few minutes left. We could just do a little bit from verse 3 if you want, or if you want to ask me or talk, I don't mind. I'm not in a rush because I think this is so important. I think it's about your whole life. I really do. Anybody want anything? Ask anything, say anything with pleasure. All okay. Okay, well, let's just look at that verse 3. We won't put it on, but it's called the inconceivable ground. I'll just read it to you. You can read your own. inconceivable and free from all conceptual exaggeration. The reference point to existent and non-existent collapses. Even the Buddha's tongue struggles to describe this truth. It has no beginning, no end, and no middle. It is a space of deep, profound clarity. May I realize the true nature of the ground of Dzogchen. And you know, for me, I mean, how do we get beyond? I mean, our mothers, most of our mothers said to us, don't sit there, do something. Okay. Didn't our mothers say, go and bake a cake, go and do something, go and occupy yourself, do something. Okay. And in Buddhism, they say, don't do anything, sit there. Iga, I'm thinking of your mom. Your mom would never have been able to say, sit there, you know, never, because you know, it's so scary for a lot of people to sit there, because then everything opens up to you. When it opens up to you, it's so scary. People don't like to see what's in their mind, and people are very afraid of being alone. I mean, just look at what people did during COVID. You know, I thought it was fantastic to spend some time alone and, you know, just not to be out there anymore. I was quite happy never to go on another date in my whole life, you know. I was happy to stay in my house from my shrine room to there, as happy as a lark, okay? But we all got shell-shocked from that. Why? Because we can't stay with our minds. Now, inconceivable ground of this verse relates to the ultimate truth, the all-pervasive and the nature of all things, utterly profound, vast, bigger than the scope of our thinking mind. I just want to say to all of you that he says it's very useful to speak about relative truth and ultimate truth, because the true truths have nothing to do with the duality between sublime versus ordinary, good versus bad. It's good to know the ultimate truth, it's bad to know that. The notion of relative truth and ultimate truth are a brilliant way of solving a philosophical dilemma. What's the philosophical dilemma? If we only had the ultimate truth, the truth of God, the truth of religions, the truth of everything, then all our earthly reality would have to be denied. All our physical reality, everything, life would be quite chaotic without mental constructs. As you said, Mummy, you have to say this is a tree. If a little child says to you, Mummy, what is this? We say, it's a bowl. Is it a bowl? If you broke it down scientifically, would there be atoms and molecules and all of that kind of thing? We have to have it in order to direct ourselves in this life. Okay, so we can't totally reject the relative truth, but the difference between the two truths is that the relative truth, that's what we see in our day-to-day life, is a reality that is agreed upon by everyone. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with what he said? It's a version of reality that allows us to have a sense of right, wrong, good, bad, and practical matters. You know, I mean, we need to have a knowledge of practical matters. You know, we really, really do. And the Buddha said, I do not deny or reject anything. He would agree with the conceptual system of reality held by the world. He agreed. He didn't say we must get rid of this relative reality because it's all an illusion. It's all created by unawareness. He knew that everybody would only see it. In fact, when he said, I don't want to teach, when he really came to enlightenment, he said, I don't want to teach, because what about all the people? They won't understand what I'm saying. They only understand the relative truth. Okay, he said that. But he said, but when it comes to ultimate truth, he uses negation especially in the sutras, because it's really important. He says, when he's talking about ultimate truth, it's not like this, it's not like that, it's not like this, it's not like that, because he doesn't want to categorize it in the ultimate truth. The Dalai Lama is looking at me. Ultimate, he doesn't want to categorize it in ultimate truth, because then you've lost the ultimate truth. But relative truth is really important, because in Dzogchen, the ultimate truth even transcends the law of karma. But imagine if we didn't have relative truth to bring in the law of karma, cause and effect, even if it transcends the ultimate truth, that law of karma has to be there and naturally fits in the framework of relative truth. But there is no karma. There is no cause and condition. How can there be if it comes out of the ground? It just comes naturally and goes back naturally. But can you imagine if I said to people, especially in this country, okay, do whatever you like, because there is no cause and effect and there's no consequence to what you do. Can you imagine how much worse it would be? The Buddha realized you have to relate to the relative truth. But you have to, when people are ready for the ultimate truth, then what they do is, like Part.4 Rinpoche always says, the debating, the monks debate. And you say, I think this is like this. And they go, it's not like that. It's not like that. And you go, it is like that. That's how they debate for hours and hours and hours. When they do the ultimate truth, they debate. It's not like this. You know, in the Prajna Paramita, you know, he says, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. It's not this, it's not that, it's not this, it's not that. They, in their philosophical debate, they need that to try and understand something beyond the relative truth. But with individuals as they are, they have to do the relative truth. Now, I just want to, I told you that story of the king who his astrologers came to him and they said to him, you know, the water that's coming up now, the water is going to be tainted. It's going to make people crazy. Don't drink it. So he didn't drink the water. Everyone in his land drank the water. They all became crazy. And he was living in ultimate truth without becoming crazy. So then they all started to say, the king's crazy. He doesn't think like us. He's crazy. So then he decided he better drink the water, because otherwise everyone's going to think he's crazy. Now that's how our world is. And it's pitiful in a way, but it is like that. That's exactly what Nettie was explaining with the matrix. It is like that. And the problem with relative truth is the norm for the majority of people who are not in touch with the ultimate truth. So the people who've got ultimate truth, like these masters, you know, when I ask them questions, when I am in their beautiful company, when they answer me, I've told you, this is my very worst answer, when they say, you could say it's like that. Okay, then I go berserk. I go, don't tell me you could say it's like that. Tell me how it is. I can take it. Okay, I can take it. How do they tell me how it is when there aren't any words to describe it? But I always say to Lamayeshi, don't tell me you could say that. I hate that answer. It's my very worst, so don't do it to me. Okay, because I want the truth. That's what I'm finding. Now, this is this relative and thing. So people start to doubt that relative truth is all there is. So they start to say, is this what the world is about? Is this what the world is about? God, there must be more. The minute we say there must be more, the awakening starts, the life force hits that luminous part. The minute we say there's got to be a better explanation than this. And then we can be carefree and relaxed when we experience direct awakening. Our storylines are who we are. They're transcended. Inconceivable means transcending all assertions. I'm going to end with two things. The little story of Saraha, which I can do next time if you want, and Nagarjuna's famous statement. You know what Nagarjuna said? He said, I have no assertions, therefore I am flawless. I have no assertions, therefore I am flawless. What a wonderful thing. No attachment to ideology. He felt doctrines did not hold truth in the realm of the nature of reality. So Saraha's story, I'll just read it very, very quick, goes like this. In the life of the Mahamudra master Saraya, I'll finish now, a great scholar who was also a monk for a long time, he became dissatisfied with his monastic training and scholasticism and wound up becoming a wandering yogi. This often happens with these people who've got all the rules and regulations. They get tired of it because now it becomes a yoke after a while. You need it to discipline yourself in the beginning, but then afterwards you want to chuck it off. So he attributed his awakening to a woman who later became his consort. Once when he was traveling, he ran into the woman at a market. She was holding an arrow, sitting in a perfect posture without looking around. She closed one eye and pulled the arrow back as if she were ready to let it go to hit a target. They began a conversation, and the woman said, the wisdom of Buddha can be understood through symbols and skillful means, but not through words and letters. Saraha understood immediately the significance of this. It was about shooting the arrow of non-duality into the target of duality. So as soon as you know, and you hit that target, I'll give you the rest. And in that moment, he had a profound awakening, and then his writing is deeply influenced. I'll give that to you next time. But just that thing, the target of non-duality, hitting the target of duality is the day you wake up and you actually say, you know what? There's much more to this. And I need to see this, and I need to not splab it to people because they won't understand. Okay, you don't need to splab the real truth. But when masters don't give me the real truth, I go wuss. Okay, because I don't want half truth. Tell it to me, I'll ponder it, I'll fight you about it, but then I want to know. That's all. And I want to know the truth. And I want to give you the truth, the way I can see it. And every day I sit and ponder the truth, every day. So I've got tons and tons and tons to teach you about in this. Are you bored at all if I carry on with this?
No, I'm not for sure.
Okay, so then we're going to go on with this. And Natty, you can just get it on YouTube when you're not here. It's easy now, you know, and just follow some of these. The Monday morning, I really feel very attached to all of you and very, very, very deep for all of you, because you really are trying to understand this very deeply, and I will give you whatever I can to help you. So let's dedicate, and then you can ask me, anybody that wants to ask. To all sentient beings who are living in the relative truth of the world, please, may they open their eyes and see. May they not be caught in the matrix of duality, which is so full of pain and suffering. We dedicate, if any one little sentence can come out of this teaching, then it was worth the effort. Through this merit, may I achieve all-seeing Buddhahood, and thereafter, once all harmful enemies have been defeated, may all beings be liberated from the ocean of existence, stirred by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Sonam die tamche zipane, topne ne pedranam tamshene, Jegana chibala drupaye sipe sole doa dro warsho. Anybody got anything they need from me?